2 games in a row, 8 quarters. What is that? 8 quarters now. Clemson's gone through and played Georgia and can't put up an offensive touchdown in 8 quarters.
And you know what's funny? This is and even just like not even Georgia. This is two out of your last 3 games that played in general where you haven't put up an offensive touchdown because you didn't against South Carolina. So it's like in South Carolina you had at least some extenuating circumstances in the South Carolina game. Like this, you have most of your guys healthy and supposedly. Obviously, we didn't see certain players that we thought we would see. So maybe I'm way off on that, and they just.
This is crazy right here. John Sarin says Dabo called out the defense in the second half for missing so many tackles. I haven't watched his post-game presser, but he better be calling out that daggone offense, that atrocious, just terrible offense that trotted out on the field for 4 quarters. Don't call out that defense. Guess what? That defense would have made the tackles if the offense would have done what they were supposed to do in the first half and score freaking touchdowns. Instead, they just want to leave this defense high and dry. I'm so sick as a Clemson fan of trotting out these elite defenses year in and year out and freaking wasting them with this piss poor offensive play that Clemson trots out there. And every freaking offseason, they're freaking baiting us into because we care about the program and we're freaking so emotionally invested and we want the program to rise back to the heights that it was so bad that we buy into this crap. And then they trot it out on the field, and it looks like crap once again. That offense was terrible. It was awful. Plain and simple. Don't blame the damn defense. The defense didn't do nothing. The defense gave you a chance. You would have gotten beaten 80-0 if it wasn't for that defense.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, like Georgia's defense is really good. Kirby Smart's defense has always been elite. There's 212 people in here. I know probably most of you aren't Clemson fans. Probably a lot of Georgia fans. Georgia's defense certainly gets a ton of credit. But man, I've seen teams with less talent than Clemson score touchdowns on Georgia, at least one. I mean, it's at a certain point you have to wonder because I felt like one of the biggest things that had separated Georgia from Clemson was the play on the line of scrimmage offensively. Like Georgia was the one that was putting in, NFL, offensive linemen.
Yeah,
and they were the ones that were able to be physical on both sides of the football. I felt like Clemson had one of the two, but not obviously the offensive portion. That's just been a struggle for years. And you watch this game and you're like, okay, we're not getting completely manhandled up front. Surely that should open a lot of things up, right? And it didn't, because again, it was such a passive, game plan of the passive, just offensive philosophy that entire game. It just felt like they were terrified to test Georgia at all. They didn't really try them. The big play to Antonio Williams, that was your one big play, and then you tried to hit a couple of go balls at the end of the first half, but there was no continuous pressure. There was no pressure on Georgia's defense to really worry about the deep ball, and that was the thing that we had talked about, just ad nauseum. Not even just in the preview show, but leading up to the game, all throughout the offseason. We said that teams have to be able to respect your downfield passing game, or nothing else will, nothing else matters. If they don't fear your ability to go down the field and hit a big play in the passing game, you're basically handcuffed at that point from an offensive perspective, and that's what it was. You really didn't try to, especially with the questions that Georgia had at corner, with some of the inexperience, and you really didn't test them that much at all. Like that's pretty disappointing. So yeah, I'm again try not to extrapolate too much, but yeah, that was the most disappointing aspect of this, was like you didn't even try really to You didn't even really try. You played scared offensively, and not even just not just the players, but the coaching was scared too. So I don't know what the solution is. We'll see how they respond to this. And App State, it's certainly not a easy bounce back type of game. So they're gonna have to bring it, or because if they call the game like they did today, App State they'll be in a dogfight with App State in the first half. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Look, I'm just frustrated with Clemson and where they're at right now, and like I said before, I'm just sick of wasting elite defense with an offense that can't even get out of its own way. We can't even line up properly.
Yeah.
We're killing drives by lining up improperly.
You didn't see Georgia's receivers doing that. They have transfers playing.
You got third-year receivers giving up on routes and not seeing that the ball was just thrown to them, and a safety coming over top about to intercept it.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? That's crazy. It's look, the offense has not improved at all. The offensive line improved some, but that's the only thing that progressed on the offensive side of the ball, in my opinion. Cade may have slightly improved.
Based on what we saw today.
But really, I think the only improvement we saw from Cade today is because he had much more time than he had last year. And that's really the offensive line that did that. Outside of that, there wasn't any improvement on this team, at least not on the offensive side of the ball. Front four on the defense is elite. Linebackers need to play much better going forward. They are way too good and talented. Wade Woodaz took some terrible angles to tackles today. He got crossed up far too many times. So I saw him get turned around far too many times. Wade Woodaz has got to play better. He's a much better linebacker than he showed today. TJ Parker, he's got to make his presence felt more. That front four is elite, but he's got to make his presence felt more. He did a good job. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on him, but we gotta see him more, right? But shout out to the defense. I think they did all they can do, and I know everybody in here, or some people in here, saw was like the defense shouldn't be gassed after the first half. They weren't gassed after the first half, but there's a set of coaches on the other side of the ball and on the other side of the field making halftime adjustments. Clearly, Clemson didn't do any of that with their offense, but Georgia did, and they made some adjustments and they found some plays. And when you start finding plays, there's this thing called momentum, and their offense definitely started clicking. And deep down inside, I don't care who you are and what you say in an interview, but Clemson's defense knew that offense wasn't going to come out there and rescue them with touchdowns. So at a certain point, it's really hard to keep pounding your head against that brick wall. Eventually the dam breaks. You see this all the time with teams that have really good defenses and not good offenses when they go up against a team like Georgia. It happens all the time. So I don't blame anything on the defense, although I think they have things to clean up, and they do definitely have things that they need to do better. Tackling out in space was good at times and then really bad at times. So definitely things to clean up on the defensive side of the ball for Clemson, but overall pretty good against that level of offense and that level of team. I'll take it. The offense, I mean, we're back at square one. I don't know what to say about the offense. I got nothing. I honestly got nothing.
Well, I think it's if Dabo is about what he said he was going to be, and we talked about kind of what the mentality was after the 4-4 start last year, and now nobody's job is safe in terms of coaching staff and player wise. Like nobody's safe. Like he needs to have that mentality this week. I don't mean on the staff because you're not going to fire anybody midseason, but like the player, you got to have like the players absolutely. Like I feel bad for Adam Randall and Cole Turner. I don't know what that because they're going to get a talking to. Because I felt like they played so much simply because they were the older guys in the room, and they're the senior leadership of the wide receiver room. Along with Antonio Williams.
Yeah.
But they didn't play like so. It's like, okay, well, you need to. There has to be a strict point where you're like, okay, well, if you're not going to give it, if you're not going to give us what we need you to give for this offense to be successful, then we're just going to play the younger guys. And so, I mean, get Bryant. I at this point, I'd much rather see Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore out there playing a lot more snaps. I'd like to see more choice to lot because I'll have to go back and look in the snap count, but I know he didn't play a ton. He didn't see a ton of snaps.
No, he didn't see a ton of snaps. Tyler Brown didn't see a ton of snaps.
Tyler Brown didn't. Yeah, so it's
Brian
like
Wesco didn't see a ton of snaps. TJ Moore didn't see a ton of snaps.
Right. So it's like it's like running against a brick wall and expecting something to. So I think you give them an opportunity. If you give them an opportunity against App State, it better be you've got one drive. If you're making the same mistakes, I'm yanking you. We're making the change. Like there needs to be a stricter
and I think
as far as that,
honestly,
that goes.
I think they already showed you what you needed to see. They don't start. I mean, if
I'm with you, but I was like, I wasn't going to freak out if I saw them like first drive next week. But
they don't start.
If I were in Dabo's shoes, they're not starting next week.
They don't start next week against App State. I'm rolling Antonio Williams out there, Tyler Brown, and Brian Wesco or TJ Moore, some combination of Troy Stellato, Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown, and TJ Moore, and Brian Wesco. Some combination of that is going out there first. And Adam Randall and Cole Turner can watch from the sideline.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, but, it is what it is.
It's one thing if you were just flat out, if Georgia's DBs were just flat out mauled like you, but you're making just simple mistakes that are actively costing you drives. Like it's not even just you're getting out talented by a talented defense. You are flat out, handicapping your offense by not doing the little things right, like the fundamental things, like that, the stuff that at any level of football. So I'm not going to extrapolate too much about the outlook of this season, and we have said that as much because we knew, you're playing the number one team in the country. You're fighting an uphill battle as far as the result is concerned, but just very, very disappointing from certain players that we had high hopes for that have been in the program. So we'll see kind of how they respond. It's going to be a very unpleasant week because I feel like Dabo expected a better performance. I don't think he expected to win this game necessarily, but I know he expected better than what we saw today, and that's just it's going to be very uncomfortable in the film room for certain players.
Yeah, so, as it should be. Should be a very uncomfortable week for everybody. Specifically on that offensive side of the ball, both coach and players. Everybody should be a very uncomfortable week.
I will say this: like we talked about Phil Maffa. I thought he mostly did a good job. There were a couple of moments I didn't like. The cut block, and that's something that I've seen him do before on that. I don't understand. Phil Maffa is 6 foot. How was 6'1", 235 pounds,
somewhere in there. Yeah,
somewhere in there. What are you doing cut blocking?
I don't know.
Who is? I hope he's not being coached to do that. Because that is
put your face in there and block that dang blitzer.
Right.
You are too big.
Too damn big.
Like
You're
it ain't
blocking
like
like you're 180, like
yeah,
you're an 85-pound running back. No, you are 230 pounds.
yeah,
Block. I if you get blown up, fine. I mean, it's Michael Williams, top 5 at worst pick in the draft. Like he's an elite player, but you are too big, too damn big to be cut blocking.
100%.
That is, and I don't think it was in a dirty, intentional thing. I
No,
just think
I
that's
don't think
something
so.
he's
But
probably done in the past that hasn't been coached out of him. Like you should not be cut blocking.
yeah,
That
don't
like
ever cut
if I'm CJ Spiller in the film room, I'm telling him
yeah,
I
don't ever
never
do
want to
that
see that
again.
again. Don't
Yeah,
ever do that again.
yeah.
If you get destroyed, you get destroyed. But
Right.
don't ever do that again.
Put your face in there and block, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do better on that. That was not I did not like to see that. I hate that he got banged up. So hopefully he's fine.
He seemed to be okay, but
I think he came back in the game and played, so I don't think it was anything serious,
yeah,
which is good. But I mean, that could end
that could
badly.
have been worse. That
You
could have
put
been
your
worse.
shoulder
Yeah.
pad on somebody's knee like that, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I hey that was the one that was the only moment from him that I just absolutely hated. You should never at your size you should never be cut blocking.
yeah, I couldn't even believe that he did it. Like when I saw it, I didn't see it real time, and then when they
No, me
went back
neither.
to the replay, I was like, "What in the world are we doing? Like, why are you cutting him?" Um, Plus, that's just a dangerous play to make. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad it's a penalty because you shouldn't be doing that to anybody,
Right.
regardless of what your size is. But
I mean, Clemson knows all about it from playing Paul Johnson's Georgia Tech teams over the years. Like, it's not only. I mean, it's annoying. I mean, especially anyone that's played at high school football, and you've probably played an option team or two.
yeah,
Though you should like that's just stop. Don't do that. You're too big. Block the guy.
mm-hmm.
Put a hat on a hat, and you hit the weight room too. Like
Yeah,
that should
I
be
can
your
see if
job.
you were like Jarvis Green,
Right.
maybe he cut
You were
blocks somebody.
undersized.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're undersized and that dude's going to freaking run through you. But you got to be squared up if you're going to do it, right? You got to do it from the front, not from the side at all. So, but Phil Moffitt's too big for that. So,
Yeah.